It started with dirt, just a small patch of his yard, rising, slowly, quietly, like something underneath was breathing. At first, Gerald thought it was a mole, maybe shifting soil, maybe roots. He ignored it for a week. Then it doubled in size. Then it doubled again. By the third week, it was the size of a car. No cracks, no holes, no tracks around it, just a perfect, silent mound. Growing. His neighbors started gathering at the fence line. Nobody had seen anything like it. He grabbed a shovel. His hands were shaking before he even touched the ground. And when the blade finally broke through the surface, the smell hit him first. Ancient, heavy, wrong. He dug deeper and deeper until the shovel stopped. Not because he was tired, but because something stopped it. What he pulled out of that ground hadn't been touched in a very, very long time. And the moment he saw it clearly, he dropped everything and stepped away. Gerald Hawkins had lived on that property for 22 years. He knew every inch of that yard, every tree root, every soft patch after rain. Nothing had ever grown there before. Nothing. The mound first appeared on a Tuesday morning in late October. Small, maybe the size of a basketball pressing up from underneath. He figured the ground was just settling. Old houses do that. Old land does that. He went back inside, but the next morning, it was bigger. Not slightly bigger, noticeably bigger. He walked around it slowly. No animal tracks, no digging marks, no entry point. Just smooth, pressurized earth, rising from below like something was being pushed up. He pressed his boot against the side of it. It was firm, almost hard, like something solid was just beneath the surface. He called his neighbor Dave over to take a look. Dave went quiet the moment he saw it. "That's not natural," he said. Those 3 words stuck. That's not natural. Gerald marked the edges with small sticks that evening. By morning, the mound had swallowed 2 of them whole. That's when the feeling started. Low in the gut. The kind you don't shake off. He stood there in the early morning fog, staring at the ground. And for just a second, he thought he felt it move. Not the wind, not his imagination. A slow, deliberate shift beneath his feet. Like something was adjusting itself, getting ready. Gerald didn't sleep that night. He sat by the kitchen window, watching the yard in the dark. Nothing moved. Nothing made a sound. But the feeling never left. At first light, he grabbed the shovel. Dave came back too. Stood at a distance, arms crossed, saying nothing. Gerald drove the blade into the side of the mound. The soil came up dark. Darker than the surrounding yard. Almost black. And wet. Even though it hadn't rained in 2 weeks. He dug for about 20 minutes before the shovel hit something. A dull, heavy thud. Not rock, not root. Something else. Gerald crouched down and cleared the soil with his hands. That's when everything changed. He felt edges. Straight edges. Man-made edges. He looked up at Dave. Dave stepped back without a word. They dug wider, dug faster, and slowly, a shape began to emerge. Large, rectangular, wrapped in something dark and deteriorated, like old canvas or rotted burlap. It had been down there a long time, a very long time. Gerald's hands were shaking again, not from the cold. He pulled at the corner of the wrapping. It tore away in chunks, and underneath, there were markings, carved, deliberate, deep. Symbols Gerald didn't recognize. Numbers, maybe, or letters from something older. Dave leaned in close, squinted hard, then stood straight up and said quietly, "Gerald, stop digging." Gerald looked at him. "Why?" Dave didn't answer right away. He just stared at the object and said, "Because I think I've seen this before." Dave had seen those markings once before, in an old photograph, his grandfather's photograph. He didn't explain further. He just pulled out his phone and made a call. Gerald stood there, staring at the object in the ground. The symbols stared back. Within the hour, 2 trucks pulled up on the street. Gerald hadn't called anyone. Dave had. 3 men climbed out. No uniforms, no badges, just quiet faces and careful eyes. They walked straight to the mound without asking directions, like they already knew where it was. One of them crouched down immediately. He traced the carved symbols with one finger, slowly, deliberately. Then he turned to the others and nodded once. Nobody spoke. Gerald stepped forward. "Someone tell me what's on my property." The man looked up and said only, "How long has this been rising?" Rising. Not growing. Not forming. Rising. That word landed differently. Gerald told him, 3 weeks. The man's jaw tightened. He stood up and walked the perimeter of the mound in a full circle. Then he stopped, crouched again. On the far side, the side Gerald hadn't dug yet, the soil had already broken open on its own. A crack, running the full length of the object. From the inside, Gerald hadn't made that crack. Nobody had. The object had. One of the other men took a sharp breath. "It's not finished," he said quietly. Gerald looked down into that crack. It was dark, deep, and from somewhere inside it came a smell. The same smell from the first day of digging, but stronger now. Much, much stronger. The oldest of the 3 men knelt beside the crack. He pulled on latex gloves, slowly, deliberately. Then he reached inside. Gerald held his breath. The man's arm went in up to the elbow. He felt around for what felt like a full minute. Then he stopped moving. His eyes changed. Not fear exactly. Something older than fear. Recognition. He withdrew his arm carefully. In his hand, a small object wrapped in decayed cloth. He set it on the ground and peeled the layers back one by one. The cloth crumbled at the edges like ash, and underneath it was a metal box, hand-forged, riveted by hand, sealed with a mechanism nobody in that yard recognized. The symbols on the box matched the symbols on the outer casing exactly. Gerald's voice came out low. "What is that?" The man didn't answer immediately. He turned it over in his hands, slowly, reading the markings like words. Then he said, "This land was a burial transit point." Gerald didn't understand. The man explained, quietly, without drama. In the mid-1800s, certain territories used unmarked land plots as temporary holding sites. Not for bodies, for belongings of the deceased, items too valuable or too dangerous to bury with their owners. Items meant to be retrieved. That never were. The box had been down there for over 170 years. The ground shifting after recent heavy rains had pushed it upward, slowly, naturally, like it was surfacing on its own. Gerald stared at the box. 170 years underground, and it was still sealed, still locked. Whatever was inside, nobody had opened it. Not once. The man looked at Gerald carefully. "This is your land," he said. "The decision is yours." Gerald reached out his hand, and the moment his fingers touched the metal, the lock mechanism clicked on its own. The lid came open without force, without sound, like it had been waiting for exactly this moment. Gerald looked inside, and for a long moment, he said nothing. Nobody asked him to speak. They just watched his face, and his face said everything. Inside the box, perfectly preserved, were documents, land deeds, handwritten, dated 1849, and beneath them, a smaller sealed envelope with a name on the front. Gerald's last name, not his first name, his family name, Hawkins. The blood drained from his face. He looked up at Dave. Dave's mouth was open. The oldest man crouched beside Gerald and spoke quietly. He said records showed a Hawkins family had once owned this land, over a century before Gerald was born. The property had been seized, sold, passed through dozens of hands. Gerald had purchased it 16 years ago, through a chain of sales he'd never traced. He had come back to his own family's land, without ever knowing it, and something in that ground had known. Historians were contacted within days. The box was authenticated, the documents verified. Local archives confirmed the Hawkins name tied to that exact plot, 1847. Gerald sat in his yard the evening after it all settled. Just him, the open ground, the October air. Dave sat beside him, silent. After a long time, Gerald said quietly, "I always felt at home here. First day I moved in." He looked at the filled-in ground. "Now I know why. Some things don't stay buried forever. Some things rise and find exactly who they were meant to find."